Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to my channel. Camp Hero Montauk NY, so make sure to watch the full video. The 415 acres that make up Camp Hero State Park are home to various habitats, including densely forested regions, a sizable stretch of Atlantic Ocean coastline, and a former military outpost. Camp Hero is distinguished by stunning intact maritime forests, freshwater wetlands, breathtaking ocean views, and dramatic bluffs rising from the shore. There is a vast network of routes for horseback riding, biking, and hiking. The park features facilities for picnicking and some of the best surf fishing spots in the world, open 24 hours a day to anglers with permits. Rich biodiversity and a profusion of birds can be found in an unaltered environment. The park's historic military outpost is a designated National Historic Site. Swimming is not allowed. 2 pets at most are permitted in day-use areas unless indicated by a sign or regulation. Pets must either be in a crate or on a leash, no longer than 6 feet at all times, and under constant supervision. If staff asks for it, you must show proof of your rabies vaccination. Pets are not allowed in playgrounds, structures, golf courses, boardwalks, pools, playgrounds, or guarded beaches. This does not apply to assistance animals. Camp Hero State Park features a beach, picnic areas, and paths for cross-country skiing, biking, horseback riding, and hiking. Due to the undersea structure's propensity to keep fish, it is a well-known surf fishing beach. Striped bass and bluefish are 2 common game fish found here. The park's former military post has some of its land listed as a National Historic Site. Military use throughout history. The U.S. Army first put Camp Hero, also known as the Montauk Air Force Station, into service in 1942. The location of Camp Hero was chosen to thwart a hypothetical attack of New York from the sea. Camp Hero was formerly a coastal defensive installation that was covered up as a fishing town. Camp Hero was named in honor of Major General Andrew Hero, Jr., who oversaw the Army's Coastal Artillery Unit until he died in 1942. And the harbor defenses of Long Island Sound, which included Fort H.G. Wright, Fort Mitchie, and Fort Terry. 3 gun batteries were constructed at Camp Hero to replace most of the other heavy weapons. Batteries 112 and 113, formerly known as Battery Dun, were created, each with 2 16-inch gun batteries. Battery 216, which consists of 2 6-inch guns, was also constructed. The major component of each of the 3 batteries was a sizable earth-covered concrete bunker that housed ammunition stores and fire management tools. Large casements shielded the 16-inch cannons and 6-inch guns respectively. Preston Nichols and Peter Moon published the Montauk Project, Operations in Time in 1992, claiming that Camp Hero was the site of covert operations. Conspiracy theorists loved the novel, and more sequels followed. Usage after the military. The General Services Administration tried to sell the entire building to real estate developers in 1984. Local environmentalists objected, saying the location was home to numerous rare ecosystems and animal habitats. The remaining parts of the Montauk Military Reservation were shut down, and the National Park Service received the majority of the building, including Camp Hero, as a donation. The National Park Service then transferred the property over to the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. Undeemed environmentally sensitive areas were auctioned off. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Camp Hero didn't change much. A feasibility study for the site's development as a golf course was carried out in 1996. Environmentalists were worried that the golf course would harm rare plant and animal species, including the blue-spotted and eastern tiger salamanders, and that irrigation would deplete the peninsula's meager groundwater resources. Although there was interest in building more golf courses on Long Island, especially on the East End, the plan to build a second course at Montauk, in addition to Montauk Downs State Park, was abandoned in 1999. On September 18, 2002, the public was allowed access to Camp Hero State Park. The radar tower will eventually house a museum and an informative center, concentrating on Cold War and World War II history. Certain sectors of the camp remained gated off and under security, particularly those close to the former satellite stations. The military history of Montauk and inside Camp Hero. There is a turnoff to a 415-acre public park called Camp Hero State Park, just before you reach the Montauk Lighthouse. It was formerly known as Fort Hero, and was renamed in honor of Major Gen. Andrew Hero Jr., who passed away in World War II. It is well worth a visit. In order to stop the Germans from attacking American soil during World War II, the Montauk Air Force Station, which was built there in the early 1940s, acted as a coastal artillery installation. There were barracks housing hundreds of soldiers. Their arsenal featured 4 15-foot artillery pieces that could, with a loud roar, discharge shells 23 miles into the ocean to sink enemy battleships. These guns were concealed in shelters under concrete hoods. Other weapons on the property included an anti-aircraft gun and 7 concrete machine gun nests in 20-foot-tall concrete. Towers from which American forces could fire at Germans stepping off landing. Craft ready to fight their way inland from the beach via slit windows. The actual lighthouse itself had 2 machine gun nests. One had a large clam-shaped window facing west and was made of concrete. It was buried in the rock face below the lighthouse. It washed away in 1995 and it's gone now. The other machine gun nest is still there though. In episode 128 of the podcast, Dan Ratner talks with William Bill Bratton, who was the police commissioner of New York City from 1994 to 1996 and again from 2014 to 2016. Directly in front of the 112-foot lighthouse is the white, rectangular structure that rises 60 feet. If you look up, you can see the slit window where the officers with the weapons and the binoculars were stationed. The base's strong arsenal of defensive armaments may have slowed them down for 1 or 2 days if a German fleet of ships, bombers, and landing craft had ever attacked, which they did not. What is now Camp Hero State Park was a wooded area full of decrepit, partly crumbling structures when I was a teenager living in Montauk. The Army closed Camp Hero after World War II and dismantled the heavy weapons for scrap. Nothing else was taken away though. We sometimes entered Camp Hero at night by scaling chain-link fences, because it was just left to rot and was a creepy area to explore. It had been designed to look like a fishing village when viewed from above. Roofs included phony bell towers and steeples. There existed a town green. When I was 17, the neighborhood fire department was charged with destroying the fictitious village. That would come to a stop after an exercise. What then is Camp Hero like today? The site still has bunkers and military buildings, one of which is perched high on a hill and is made of a reinforced concrete rectangle with a peaked roof that looks like a house. The slit windows and machine gunners are hidden by the roof's overhang, which casts a brief shadow beneath it. The 1960 deployed radar tower, which served as an air force. Early warning system installation until 1980 is one of the remaining artifacts. Now, Russia was the enemy instead of Germany. There was a worry that the Russians may launch guided missiles, even though there was no threat of an invasion. It was established as the 773rd Air Force Base in 1946. There was no landing area. There were only the tower, its supporting structures, and a staff of roughly 100 officers after 1960. In those years, if Russian missiles had flown overhead, radar tower operators at Montauk would have radioed the large military airport. At Westhampton, now Francis S. Cabreski Airport, opening the tops of the underground bunkers there, and launching Atlas anti-missile missiles to intercept the approaching missiles. I periodically supplied prescription medications to the Air Force Base's officers. The 773rd Aircraft Control and Warning Squadron in the late 1950s. The local pharmacy was owned by my father. Around the 773rd was barbed wire. At the gate, 2 soldiers with weapons let you through. There were modern barrack structures inside, along with a gym, a leisure room, an officers' club, and a PX where I saw officers purchase items, like candy bars, toiletries, stamps, envelopes, and beverages. Several bomb-proof concrete buildings that made up the command control office were also there but off-limits. The technicians watched green screen radar monitors inside while keeping a tight eye on the skies. My dad would be listening to the news on his radio console, while my family and I were at our South Fairview Avenue home. At intervals of 1 minute, the radar tower would turn to scan the skies, and we would hear a brief zzzz sound as the radar signal bounced off of us. No one appeared to be harmed, though. Dad remarked, a small cost to bear in defending America. Then, occasionally at night, we were able to hear and even see military drills over the Atlantic Ocean, where retired ships were being shelled by planes, from West Hampton working in tandem with radar commands from Montauk. Then one day, the officer in charge of the 773rd came into our pharmacy, White's drugstore, and sottily told my dad that the base had been ordered closed, and he had been commended for going down in the middle of the night to fill a customer's urgent prescription. Thus, these abandoned military structures rotted and deteriorated untreated for decades in the woods, close to the Montauk Lighthouse. Young folks still crept around in it covertly during that period. I went there a further 3 times. The stores of munitions were reached through underground tunnels. Early computer equipment in blast-proof concrete structures was now accessible. The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, was written by Preston Nichols, a young novelist. The book disclosed trials with time travel and other top-secret government initiatives. First a book, then a second, and then a third. The book, which was initially intended to be called Montauk, served as some of the inspiration for the popular Netflix series Stranger Things. The second book referred to me. I had told the author in a letter that it was utter nonsense. He declared that I was a member of the government's covert cabal. The Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation of the state of New York oversees most of Camp Hero. The park was largely undeveloped when it first welcomed visitors in 2002. Visit us. Even in the cold, it's a remarkable sight to visit. To avoid a goblin attack on your vehicle, arrive there before dusk. At Camp Hero, the abandoned military base that served as the basis for Stranger Things, secrecy and conspiracy theories are commonplace. Containers and tinfoil hats. There is no shortage of hypotheses that covers secret military and government programs. But the Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, written by Preston B. Nichols and Peter Moon in 1992, is largely responsible for Camp Hero's fame. The book proved what many locals in or near Montauk may have already suspected, that the former military installation had been the focal point for one of American history's most nefarious and top-secret research projects. Nichols was the movement's chief proponent during the 1970s and 1980s. He asserted that government operatives were utilizing electromagnetic radiation to send ideas straight to people's brains. His adherents, some of whom continued to cover their heads with solid metal pots to deflect microwaves, assert that Nichols could also control the weather, and so demonstrated the government's equivalent skills. The semi-automatic ground environment, SAGE, radar tower at Camp Hero is where Nichols claimed to have worked in 1968 after being teleported there. Nichols is not the only one with doubts. Christopher Garetano, a Long Island native, has long believed that the government is concealing something evil beneath Camp Hero. He published a movie about his hunt, Montauk Chronicles, in 2015, and he appeared in a History Channel Dark Files segment about the Montauk Project. The Tower That Spins. The Cold War-era SAGE radar tower is at the center of the mysteries surrounding Camp Hero. The enormous building served as the mother station for a number of manned radar towers that were smaller and were submerged in the ocean along the East Coast. The U.S. government is reported to have had an additional 30 minutes of warning time thanks to this network of towers in the event of an approaching Soviet nuclear assault. According to Garetano, every 12 seconds the radar tower would rotate and there would be animals freaking out and people getting headaches and bad dreams. People's electrical devices would malfunction, as you well know. There used to be 12 such towers of a similar design spread out around the nation. But only Camp Hero's is still standing. It is a National Historic Site and a well-known landmark on Long Island. While being inactive, the 40-foot-wide steel dish on the 90-foot-tall concrete tower continues to shift positions, while being visible from miles away curiously. From April 1 through December 31 each year, Camp Hero State Park is open for sport fishing, permission required. The park is accessible daily from sunrise to sunset for picnicking, hiking, surfing, and bird viewing. So, that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed the video. Use the comments section below to tell us your thoughts about the video. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button to be notified of all the latest videos.